So I've got a competition in September and I've made a really important decision about that comp. Let's go to the gym and I'll explain. I made the decision to compete at below 80 kilos rather than compete at my natural weight, which is about 82. The main rationale for that is because one, there was no one competing at 82, no one had signed up. But then at 177 pounds, there was about 5 people. And I'd rather have people to compete against than go up a weight and then have no one to compete against and be moved down to a different division. I want to compete in the division I signed up for, not a division I got placed into, which has happened to me in lots of other comps. Oh, that's a good stretch. Come with me. So this isn't just about the weight categories for me. It goes a bit deeper. I think when I was younger, I had a lot of body image issues. I really struggled with my body image and the way I looked. I'm not particularly tall. I've never been particularly big. And as a result, I've really struggled with how I perceive myself, and my self-worth was tied a lot into what I looked like. Don't get me wrong, I still struggle with my body image, and I've had to do a lot of work to make sure I feel better about myself and the way I look. But it still plays a massive part in a lot of decisions I make, particularly when it comes to combat sports and jiu-jitsu. And I know I'm not the only one who deals with these body image issues and makes a lot of decisions. I've got lots of friends who deal with it. I know people who have jumped on gear because of their body image and how much they perceive it to have an impact on their personality and how they feel day to day. And it's just interesting to kind of reflect on how much of an impact the body image has on me and probably others like me who have always been kind of sporty, always done sports. You kind of rely on your body to look a certain way because it helps you feel a certain way and then perform better. There's an adage when I played American football which was look good, feel good, play good, and I really lived by that. Like with a lot of young people, and I know lots of these young people carry that. They carry the weight of their body and their body image on a day-to-day. The impact how they perceive life and how they follow through with what they want to do. Right, this is the working set. That was heavy. And I'm not just talking about young men when I talk about this, I'm talking about young women as well, because ultimately young people have a really tough time. Like I think when I was a kid I had body image issues and I didn't have social media, it wasn't a thing when I was younger, but now it's a massive part of their lives. I think about something as simple as like taking photos with your friends. When I was a kid I took photos with my friends and my face was always visible, and now if you have any younger siblings, cousins, children, you'll see how many of them cover their faces when they take pictures, and that's a real shame. And I think that comes down to what they think they're going to be perceived like when they post it on social media, because that's where a lot of these photos end up going. There is a mass performative nature to this, because they're taking photos to put online, or they're making videos of them in the gym to put online, like me. It may not be the healthiest way for them to cope with what they're actually going through on a day-to-day. Particularly if their accounts are not private, because we know when we were younger we probably didn't make the best decisions, especially when it came to kindness. And no one really teaches young people how to be and how to deal with these kind of body image issues. Obviously there are things that they can find and there are always people in their lives who will support them, but it's one of those situations where it's not in their face, it's not front and centre. And I think that's a really difficult thing to deal with when you're that young, having to deal with the stresses of just being young and going through puberty and going through life at that age and you're not sure what you want to do and what you are meant to do, to then have that added layer of outside judgment or the perception of outside judgment. And as I've said, for me, it was always about getting bigger, but it doesn't necessarily have to be about getting bigger and getting stronger. It could also be about losing weight. Like how many guys try to cut and really struggle, and how many people starve themselves as a way of cutting. It's not a healthy way of doing it, and I've actually fallen into that where I've gone up and down in weight so much that it's probably affected my heart a little bit. Oh, there we go. That's time. Yeah, cutting weight never used to be hard for me. I never used to struggle at all, but recently I've really struggled with trying to stay below 76. And I think aiming for below 80 would be a good call. If I walk around at below 80 or around 80 kilos, I can always cut a little bit just before the comps. So this next comp is going to be Grappling Industries, and I'm competing at 177 pounds, which is just under 77 kg. And so that's the plan, is to get to 80, cut down a little for September, and then compete at that weight. I think I've got into a bad mindset of this idea of like victim mentality, and this is why I've kind of thought about this video, is because I'm starting to struggle with my body image again. Like, I've been so much more successful at around 77, 76, like that below 80 category between 76 and 80 kg. I've been so much more successful in that than I ever was at above 80, about 83. But in my head, I've got this idea of like not being victim weight. I don't even know what that means. Like, Owen Jones is 66 kilos and I wouldn't call him a victim. But in my head, I've convinced myself that there's such a thing as victim weight. And so I was like, I don't want to be victim weight. And I think I need to get out of that and actually do what the right thing to do is, which is compete at around 80 kg and be an absolute monster. Well, plan anyway. It's not just my jiu-jitsu performance that's better at a lighter weight. Like, I feel better in my life. I have more energy, I'm more flexible, I'm just better off at a lighter weight. But there's always that feeling that I'm not big enough, I'm not strong enough. I have to fight against that mental thing in my head that's telling me that I'm not good enough if I don't look a certain way. And I do think as you get older, it's easier to have that acceptance. There's less eyes on you. People are looking for longevity, not just aesthetics. Like, I'm in a place in my life where I am married, I'm happy, I'm not courting anyone. I can look a certain way and I know my wife's still gonna love me. It doesn't really matter what I look like, it's more about how healthy I am. Like, if I was absolutely shredded but downing 3 monsters a day, my wife would be fuming with me. But if I was a little bit chunky but eating a relatively healthy diet and doing a little bit of exercise, she'd be much happier with that. And I think having that realization has made it much easier for me to accept the weight cut. And I think so many men don't have that. They don't have that kind of guiding light to support them in making better life decisions. Because I think about how many young people now are jumping on gear at like 19, 20 years old and absolutely ruining their bodies because they're just shutting down their testosterone production for what, a couple extra likes on social media. It's really bad, and I think we need to work on supporting these young people to have better relationships with their bodies, and in turn they will have better relationships with the people around them because they will feel more accepted. And this is where I think jiu-jitsu and the community come in, because having that community that kind of don't judge you on what you look like, but judge you on what you provide for them in terms of support, help, friendship, is more important than ever right now. Because we've lost those communities as we've become more and more online, where that personal connection is gone. Like, I think about, there was a time where I had to go to a bank to get money out. I had to have cash so I could pay for things, but now I can just do everything on my card. So if I never speak to anyone, that's okay. I go through Tesco and I go through the self-service. I don't ever interact with people as much as I used to when I had to deal with cash or deal with cashiers. I think it's innately human to want to have that sort of connection. And I think that's what jiu-jitsu provides, sports provides, hobbies provide. You never get thrown into stuff as much once you leave school. So the approach stays the same. I'm still gonna try and do as much jiu-jitsu as I can. I've still got the same kind of game plan. It's just at a different weight. And I think I feel strong right now. And I think it's much nicer to be in a position where I can put the weight on, but it's not an absolute uphill battle trying to get to 85 and then cut back down. I think it'll be healthier for me to do a small bulk now and then reevaluate, because the British Open I'm competing at 79, which will feel really good because it's so close to my natural weight. I think the biggest realization I've come to is the fact that a couple of years ago, I don't think I would have made the same decision. I think I would have just tried to get as big as possible, and then I would have got fat and I would have been tired. I wouldn't have the kind of engine to be able to compete the way I want to compete. And I think that's a real evolution in me, in the way I am. And I think that's the whole thing, is to keep it moving, keep it stepping, keep getting better every day, even if it is a little bit, whether that's mentally better, physically better, better in terms of your jiu-jitsu, better in terms of your relationships. Everything needs to get better a small amount every single day, or at least you need to try. That's pretty much it. That's the plan, is to work on just making sure that I'm in the gym, I'm training jiu-jitsu, and I'm healthy and happy. So I'm going to leave you. I'm going to finish off this workout, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.